Now, given as long as you've done this, I assume that you have some type of presence that's just naturally been built up as an author. Like, so you're not in the I'm releasing a first book stage. If you were to look at somebody who is in that first book stage, what are the things that you would tell them, like, to just get out of their head right now?
I actually really wanna do this. I wanna get a poster. I wanna design a poster that says somehow Palpatine returned on it. And, like, someone was paid bukus of money to put that in a film, and it ruined the Golden Goose franchise. So, there's no way this.
Well, I think ruining the Golden Goose franchise was not putting the 3 of them in a movie again, but amongst other things.
Well, I mean, like, that was probably, like, the final, like, paper cut on a body that had already been taxed to death.
So, is the what does that mean to you when you say it? Or what does that mean to, in particular, that audience?
For what it's worth, like, so when I tell people this, it's like, for what it's worth, like, no matter how badly you think you will do, you will not do that badly. This was, like, professionally studio created, approved by people that have been in the industry for decades, and they horribly misread the room. They did not do the planning. They did not put the effort or the passion into it. They were looking for the dollar signs and the virtue signaling. If you don't do that for your book, you should be fine.
There's maybe something in there even about, like, write what you believe in,
Right. You can tell when
and
you can tell when an author has no passion for their work and they're just writing for the paycheck.
everything Stephen King's written since, like, his first book.
Well,
I kid. I actually do still like some of his stuff, but it often feels way too like collecting a paycheck.
and part of the reason that literature is under the humanities in college classes, no matter what they're teaching these days, is because literature is something that makes us human. It's a defining trait of humanity, and we all share in it. And as inane and incoherent as some of the people on social media have become in the last decade, on some level, I can sympathize and even empathize with them. I've been terribly upset when the world hasn't gone my way. I mean, like I said, that's kind of the reason I started writing, because I really wanted a world that would help me make sense of my current chaos. So I, I really tried hard to lose myself to find myself. Stuff in my writing.
And to kind of, we'll say, not dwell in the negative. Those same authors that were just they're putting out their first book. We don't want everything to be like you don't do any of these things. What is something you think that you wish you'd known back then to do?
I think I would have done. I probably wouldn't have done much different because I kind of waited a little bit because I I got Slumbering published initially in 2013. So that was pretty much. I think I published my first Kindles, like KDP. I published it, I think, a year after that. So 2014, 2015. I think I would have just waited if I just thought about it. So
With that first book, do you feel like that one is different than your self-released stuff, having gone through that process? Like, do you think it's better or worse for having gone that route?
I think so. Slumbering is about. It almost is kind of like, and this was before like Marvel started getting really big. I started writing in 2007, and my protagonist is a narcissist. Like, he's just very self-involved. Everything has to go his way. I did not make him sympathetic enough at first. People have read it and like I've gotten hate mail from it. Because, but it's funny because I can tell how old the person is that writes me the letters talking about it. It's like, oh, you're like in your 30s, you don't like this kid because he's not new grad. And if he's a teenager, it's like, this kid was cool. I liked him. And he becomes so lame because he eventually becomes the cool kid and he kind of gives it up gradually and reluctantly to do the right thing. So it's kind of funny hearing it. probably the big thing I would change there. Don't write an unlikable protagonist outright without giving him enough of good, clear reasons for people to sympathize with.
So does it, but the Cumberbatch guy, his Sherlock I like, particularly because he is a pretty terrible guy.
And I think that's an excellent example of doing it kind of in a balanced way. So I for my series, I wanted to write for boys. At the time, I was an English teacher, and I wrote like Harry Potter was big, and it was pretty much the only thing that the boys in my class liked to read, aside from a few other random things like Power Rangers and Star Wars, and a lot of the comic stuff was picking up even then. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a boy superhero, and he's gonna be a narcissist. He's gonna be the cool kid who becomes absolutely human by the end of high school. So let's see if I can do it.
Well, certainly with boys, I know that there's something about narcissism as a concept that I can't speak to whether or not women or girls feel it, but I definitely have a song that I wrote called Orson Welles, and it's kind of about the whole idea was written from this perspective of the a man who's just encumbered and weighed down by his own genius and the hubris of the rest of the world just not understanding his genius. And well, it's to me it was but to me it's like I think in so many of us there's that part of us that just if only the world really understood me and what I have to offer, like things would be different. And maybe it's narcissism, maybe to me it's maybe a way of your own insecurities trying to hold you up. Is it really narcissism? Is it just like the front that you have to put up to kind of believe that you're more capable than you are? I don't know.
No, that's a good way to put it. I mean, like I explained him as a narcissist, but yes, he's deeply insecure, and he is looking for somebody who can understand him more than some. In the meantime, though, it's kind of like if would you rather be loved or feared type of Machiavellian high school politics, and your worth is kind of like an illusion. And
The quote from my favorite movie, for the record, when I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's a Bronx Tale, and the kid whose dad's a bus driver, but he's also like a male role model who's a what do you call it, a mob boss, and he asks him, do you think it's better to be loved or feared? And his answer is, you know, it's better to be feared if you're me.
yeah, oh well. I love literary fiction. When people ask me what you read, I like to read memoirs. I like literary fiction. I like a lot of nonfiction stuff too. So writing fantasy, I do my best. What I tell people is I do my best to keep my characters honest. So I can't really you can't really write good people or bad people if they're not at least honest about stuff. Hamilton is overly honest.
Right on. Well, is there anything else you'd like my audience to know? If not, where can I send them to look you up and find what you're doing right now?
Okay. Well, I am on X and I'm on Gab and Facebook, and I'm trying to get back to Instagram a little bit, just cause.
I'm not a big Instagram person myself. I put stuff there and then I do nothing with it.
I think, well, like when COVID happened, like my kids got kind of like of their school shut down. At the time, we were in private school, and the school got shut down. I think 2.5 months early. It was like April. Where we were like, we're just gonna close for the year, and the older kids will have online options and stuff, but my kids are young. And I think ever since then, I've been playing catch up. So after that, it was like, okay, I gotta say goodbye to some social media. Things are starting to feel a little bit more.
Right on. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on today,
Oh, well, thank you.
and hope you have a good one.
Yes, thank you very much.